Hi everybody, Grace the Book Lady. I have for you today a fairy tale. It's Sleeping Beauty, adapted by Josephine Collins and illustrated by Kirsti Davidson. There's a cover for you. Isn't it pretty? Some great artwork. Here we go. Once upon a time, there lived a king and queen who had everything in the world except a child. When at last Princess Aurora was born, the king jumped for joy and announced, "It's time to celebrate." So there is the king and the queen, and the king is holding Princess Aurora, and there's the court. He organized a magnificent ball. The fairies who lived in the kingdom would be the most important guests. But in his excitement, the king accidentally forgot to invite one of them. When the fairies arrived at the glittering party, they gave baby Aurora their gifts of wisdom, beauty, courage, and everything a princess could wish for. But suddenly, the forgotten fairy thundered in. So there's the lavish party, and there's the baby and her gifts, and the king and queen. "How dare you forget me?" she screeched. "On her 15th birthday, the princess will prick her finger on a spindle and die," as she stomped out. Everyone looked in horror at the final fairy, who still had her gift to give, hoping she could help. "I cannot remove this curse, but I can help the princess," she said. "When she pricks her finger, she will not die. Instead, she will fall asleep for 100 years. So there's the mean fairy, and there's the good fairy who tried to help Princess Aurora. After that, all across the land, the king ordered that spindles be destroyed. Everyone obeyed. They're chopping up spindles and collecting them back here. The years passed and Aurora grew up to be just as clever, brave, and beautiful as the fairies promised. When the princess turned 15, the palace celebrated with a party. During a game of hide and seek, Aurora stumbled upon a door that she'd never seen before. There she is. She's going into the room she'd never seen before. Oh no, sorry. This is the game of hide and seek. This is the room she's never seen before. Let's see what happens. "How did I ever miss this?" she gasped, and pushed open the door to explore. Down, 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 a twisted, shadowy, winding staircase. Whir, 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 came a strange sound from a room ahead. Suddenly, in front of her was an old woman spinning. It's the evil witch, the evil fairy. "Excuse me, but what is that?" Aurora asked, pointing to the spinning wheel. "Why don't you give it a try?" said the woman, who was actually the forgotten fairy in disguise. But as soon as Aurora touched the spindle, she pricked her finger and fell into a deep, deep, deep sleep. There's the evil fairy. And there's Aurora falling asleep. And the king and queen in their throne room the servants in the hall, the horses in the stables, and the pigeons on the roof, and even the dogs in the yard. They all fell fast asleep, too. The king and queen, servants, and all the animals, fast asleep. Years passed, and a thick hedge of thorns grew in a tangle around the palace, hiding it from the world. Many brave princes who had heard of the tale of the sleeping princess would try to find the palace, but each one soon gave up and went home. So they're princes trying to chop their way through, climb, trying to get in. They each gave up. Then, one day, exactly 100 years after the wicked spell had been cast, a lucky prince arrived in the kingdom. As he hacked at the sharp thorns, they suddenly transformed into beautiful flowers and let him pass. I don't understand what these other princes were talking about, the prince said as he trotted off to find the princess. So the thorns became roses and pretty flowers, and there he is, going up to the castle. Past the sleeping pigeons, horses, and dogs he strode. Past the sleeping servants and the sleeping king and queen he crept. Down, down, down the winding stairs he went until he came to the room where Princess Aurora lay asleep. So there are the animals, there the king and queen, and there's Aurora asleep. The princess's beauty left the prince speechless. He instantly fell in love. He couldn't resist taking her in his arms and kissing her, and the moment his lips touched hers, the princess woke up, and so did everyone in the palace. At last, Princess Aurora gasped, "I was waiting. I was beginning to think no one was ever going to rescue me. I think it's time to celebrate." There's the prince about to kiss Aurora, and there's Aurora and her parents awake. The king threw the biggest, glitziest party ever, and this time he was careful not to leave anyone out by accident. Princess Aurora and her prince lived happily ever after, and luckily, the forgotten fairy was never seen again. There's the party. There's the prince and Aurora. And the musicians and people dancing. And that's the end. That was Sleeping Beauty adapted by Josephine Collins and illustrated by Kirsti Davidson. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Bye.